Jai Om Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Pavan Janardan Maharaj Ki Jai.
Vandeham Shri Guru Shiyata Parakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Sya Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raganatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Sabadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Paran Sahagana Lalita Shivishikam Vitam Sya Om Jnana Timarandasha Jnananjana Shalakya Chakshuram Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Gurva Bhistam Supurakam Gurganara Sesha Sambhushitam Chintya Chintya Samasthaveda Nipunam Shri Rupa Patanagam Govinda Bidam Ujwalam Bharatanum Bhaktyan Vitam Sundaram Vande Vishwagurun Shah Divyad Bhagavat Premno Ebija Pradam Devam Divyatanum Suchanda Baranam Balarka Shailan Shitam Sandrananda Puram Sareka Varanam Vairagya Vidyamburim Sri Sanatan Nidim Subhakti Lasitam Saraswatanam Baram Bandetam Shubharam Madeka Sharanam Nyashishvara Shidaram Vanshikopatarubhyascha Kripasindubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanibhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Namo Mahabaranyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namane Gauratavishe Namah. So we're hearing from Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita by Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, translation and commentary by Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And this is Madhya-lila chapter 24, explanations of the Atmarama verse. And I'll begin with verse number 211. This is Mahaprabhu explaining the Atmarama verse to Srila Sanatan Goswami. E unisharta korilu age shunaar atma shabde de hoko he chariartatar. I've already explained 19 different meanings. Now please hear further meanings. The word atma also refers to the body, and this can be taken in 4 ways. The 4 divisions of meanings of the word deho, body, are Upadika Brahmadeha, the material body considered as Brahman with designations, Karma Nishta Yogikara Karma Deha, the body engaged in ritualistic ceremonies of the Vedic injunctions, Tapal Deha, the body engaged in austerities and penances, and Sarva Kama Deho, the body engaged in the satisfaction of all kinds of material desires. Deharane Dehebhaje Dehopade Brahman Satsange Sehokore Krishnara Bhajan. One in the bodily conception worships his own body as Brahman, but when he comes in contact with a devotee, he gives up this mistaken idea and engages himself in the devotional service of Lord Krishna. Udaramu pasateya rishi vartmasuk kurpadrisha parisara padatim hridayam arunayo daharam tata uragad ananta tabadama shira paramam Punar iha yat sametya na patanti kritandamuke. Those who follow the path of great saintly mystic yogis take to the yogic gymnastic process and begin worshipping from the abdomen, where it is said that Brahman is located. Such people are called Sharkaraksha, which means that they are situated in the gross bodily conception. They are also followers of the rishi known as Aruna. Following his path, they observe the activities of the arteries. Thus they gradually rise to the heart, where subtle Brahman, Paramatma, is situated. They then worship him. O unlimited Ananta, better than these persons are the mystic yogis who worship you from the top of their hearts, Beginning with the abdomen and proceeding through the heart, they reach the top of the head and pass through the Brahma Randra, the hole at the top of the skull. Thus these yogis attain the perfectional platform and do not enter the cycle of birth and death again. So sometimes we'll refer to that as raising the Kundalini. It says, beginning with the abdomen and proceeding through the heart, they reach the top of the head and pass through the Brahma Randra, the hole at the top of the skull. Thus these yogis attain the perfectional platform and do not enter the cycle of birth and death again. So those persons are in search of liberation, and they're trying to attain perfection on the strength of their own bodily activities, basically. Deharame karmanishta yagikarijan satsange karmatyaji koraya bhajan. Those who are in the bodily conception mainly engage in fruitive activity. Those who perform yajnas and ritualistic ceremonies are also considered in the same category. However, when such persons come in contact with a pure devotee, they give up their fruitive activity and fully engage in the service of the Lord. So they can be, their conception of life can be changed if they come in contact with a pure devotee or an actual devotee of the Lord. Karmani ashmin anasmase duma dumratmanam bhavan apayay yati govinda para padma savam madhu. We have just begun performing the fruitive activity, a sacrificial fire, but due to the many imperfections in our action, we are not certain of its result. Our bodies have become black from the smoke, but we are factually pleased by the nectar of the lotus feet of the personality of God at Govinda, which you are distributing. This verse from Srimad Bhagavatam was spoken to Sutta Goswami at the meeting of great sages at Naimisharanya. The great sages were headed by Shaunika, and Sutta Goswami was speaking of the glorious activities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead at that meeting. At that time, all the rishis assembled there neglected to complete the ritualistic ceremonies because there was no positive assurance of the results. All the performers were coated with black ash due to the large amount of smoke coming from the fire. Tapasvi prabriti jata deha rami hoy saru sange tapachadi. Shri Krishna Bajoy. Tapasvi prabriti jata deha rami hoy saru sange tapachari. Shri Krishna Bajoy. The tapasvis, those who undergo severe austerities and penances to elevate themselves to the higher planetary systems, are also in the same category. When such persons come in contact with the devotee, they give up all those practices and engage in Lord Krishna's service. So these are persons that are as it said, they're also in the category, as it's mentioned here. The word Atma also refers to the body, and this can be taken in 4 ways. So it mentions 4 kinds of persons. The material body considered as Brahman with designations, the body engaged in ritualistic ceremonies of the Vedic injunctions, Tapadeho, the body engaged in austerities and penances, and Sarvabhauma, the body engaged for the satisfaction of all kinds of material desires. So I believe now we're hearing about Tapadeho. The tapasvis, those who undergo severe austerities and penances to elevate themselves to the higher planetary systems, are also in the same category. When such persons come in contact with the devotee, they give up all those practices and engage in Lord Krishna's service. So the tapasvis, they're they are also in bodily conception. They're undergoing austerities, but it's still based on the bodily conception. So it's here, Mahaprabhu is explaining to Sanatan Goswami that in Atmarama, he's taking, Atma can also mean the body. So, Yat pada seva biruchis tapasvinam asesha janmo pachitam malam diya sadya shinoti anvaham edati sati yathapadang gushta vinirishta sarit. The taste for loving service is like the water of the river Ganges, which flows from the feet of Lord Krishna. Every day, that taste diminishes the results of sinful activities acquired over a period of many births by those who practice austerities. Deharami sarvakama sab atmarama Krishna kripa Krishna bhaje charis sabakama. As long as one labors under the bodily conception, one must fulfill volumes and volumes of material desires. Thus a person is called Atmarama. When such an Atmarama is favored by the mercy of Krishna, he gives up all his so-called self-satisfaction and engages in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. So here we're hearing about the fourth of the categories that was mentioned, and that is Sarvakamadeha, the body, this Atmarama's body, but Sarvakamadeha, the body engaged for the satisfaction of all kinds of material desires. So as long as one labors under the bodily conception, one must fulfill volumes and volumes of material desires. Thus a person is called Atmarama. When such an Atmarama is favored by the mercy of Krishna, he gives up his so-called self-satisfaction and engages the transcendental loving service of the Lord. So that will be through the association with a devotee. Stana bilasi tapasvi stitaham tvam praptavan devam munendra guyam kacham vichinvan api divya ratnam swamin kritartasmi varam nayache. When he was being blessed by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Dhruva Maharaj said, "O my Lord, because I was seeking an opulent material position, I was performing severe types of penance and austerity. Now I've gotten you, who are very difficult for the great demigods, saintly persons, and kings to attain. I was searching for a piece of glass, but instead I found the most valuable jewel. Therefore, I am so satisfied that I do not wish to ask any benediction from you." This verse from the Hari Bhakti Subodhaya. So Dhruva Maharaj went to the forest looking to find the association of sages who could help him. He's a young boy, but he was trying to attain a kingdom that was better than his brothers, because his father was the king, but Dhruva Maharaj's wife was not one of the favorites of the king. Was not so. Dhruva feels shunned by his father because his stepmother minimized his importance because she was the principal queen. So his mother, I believe her name is Suniti, told Dhruva that only the Lord can help you. And he asked, "Where can I find the Lord?" And she said that the sages look for him in the forest. And even though he was a young boy, like 5 years old, he went to the forest and he engaged in austerities, trying to find the Lord. But when the Lord, he was able to attain help from Narad Muni, and then in meditation, the Lord appeared before him. And the Lord, he had some desire, material desire for looking for the Lord, but when he saw the Lord, he said this verse which is quoted from the Hari Bhakti Subodhaya. When he was thus blessed by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Dhruva Maharaj said, "O my Lord, because I was seeking an opulent material position, I was performing severe types of penance and austerity. Now I have gotten you who are very difficult for the great demigods, saintly persons, and kings to attain. I was searching after a piece of glass, or I was searching after pieces of glass, but instead I have found the most valuable jewel. Therefore, I am so satisfied that I do not wish to ask any benediction from you." So he had done all this to attain a benediction of getting an opulent kingdom. So because he felt shunned by his father, but when he actually saw the Lord, then he gave up that desire. But still, the Lord gave him place, Dhruva Loka, which is said to be the pole star. Echaryarta saha hoila desha arta aratina arta shuna parama samarta. In addition to the 19 meanings of the verse mentioned previously, there are in addition to the 19 meanings of the verse mentioned previously, there are these 4 further meanings when the word Atmarama is taken to mean those laboring under the bodily conception. This brings the total to 23. Now hear of another 3 meanings which are very suitable. So we heard of those 4 meanings of those laboring under the bodily conception. This brings the total to 23. Now hear of another 3 meanings which are very suitable. The 3 further meanings of the verse are understood when 1, the word cha is taken to mean in due course. 2, the word cha is taken to mean eva, and the word api to mean censure. And 3, the word nirgranta is taken to mean one who is very poor without mercy. So these are all meanings supported by a dictionary of Sanskrit terms. Cha shabde samuchayar artakoi atmaramas cha munayas cha krishnare bhajai. As mentioned above, the word cha can be used to mean aggregate. According to the meaning, all the Atmaramas and Munis engage in Krishna's service. Besides aggregate, there is another meaning of the word cha. Nigranta haya ihanapi nirdarane ramascha krishnascha yata viharaye bane. The word nirgranta can be used as an adjective, and api can be used in the sense of certainty. For instance, Ramascha Krishnascha means that both Ram and Krishna enjoy walking in the forest. Ramascha Krishnascha yata viharaye vane. For instance, Ramascha Krishnascha means that both Ram and Krishna enjoy walking in the forest. Because it is said that both Ram and Krishna enjoy wandering in the forest, it is understood that both of them are enjoying their tour within the forest. Because it is said that both Rama and Krishna enjoy wandering in the forest, it is understood that both of them are enjoying their tour within the forest. Cha shabde anuchaye artakohyar bato biksham atagam chanaya jaichi prakar. The word cha can also present a secondary meaning to be done at the same time. This way of understanding the word cha is called anvachaye. An example is, O brahmachari, go out to collect alms and at the same time bring in the cows. Collect alms means go collect something to eat, maybe from the forest, but go collect something to eat, and at the same time, bring in the cows. Krishna manane muni Krishne sarvada bhajai Atmarama api bhaje guna artakoi. Saintly persons who are always meditating upon Krishna are engaged in the devotional service of the Lord. The Atmaramas are also engaged in the Lord's service. That is the indirect import. Saintly persons who are always meditating upon Krishna are engaged in the devotional service of the Lord. The Atmaramas are also engaged in the Lord's service. This is the indirect import. The anvachaye, meaning of the word cha, indicates that between the two words compounded by the word cha, one is given more importance and the other is considered subordinate. For example, O brahmachari, please go out and collect alms and at the same time bring in the cows. In this statement, the collection of alms is of first importance, and the second business of collecting the cows is subordinate. Similarly, one who always meditates upon Krishna is mainly a devotee of Krishna engaged in his devotional service. Other Atmaramas are subordinate in devotional service. Cha evarte munaya eva krishnare bhajai Atmarama api garha arta koi. The word cha can also be used to indicate the certainty that only saintly persons are engaged in rendering devotional service to Krishna. In the combination Atmarama api is used in the sense of censure. Nirgranta Hoya e duhara viseshan ararta shunajaiche sadura sangam. The word nirgranta can be taken as an adjective modifying Muni and Atmarama. There is another meaning which you may hear from me indicating association with a devotee. Now I shall explain how it is that through the association of devotees, even a nirgranta can become a devotee. Nirgranta shabde kohe tabe bhyara nirdan sarusangi seha kore Sri Krishna bhajan. The word nirgranta, when combined with api, used in the sense of certainty, indicates a person who is a hunter by profession or who is very poor. Nevertheless, when such a person associates with a great saint like Narada, he engages in Lord Krishna's devotional service. Krishna Ramas Chaiva Hoy Krishna Manan Vyada Hoya Hoy Puja Bhagavatama. Krishna Ramas Chaiva Hoy Krishna Manan Vyada Hoya Hoy Puja Sri Bhagavata Totama. The words Krishna Ramascha refer to one who takes pleasure in thinking of Krishna. Even though such a person may be a hunter, he is still worshipable and is the best of devotees. Ek bhakta vyad hera kata shuna sabadane jahoite hoy sat sangama mahimara gyane. I shall now narrate the story of how a hunter became a great devotee by the association of such an exalted personality as Narad Muni. From this story, one can understand the greatness of association with pure devotees. When Srila Govinda Maharaj was here, sometimes he watched the hunting channel, which is very, today, big game hunters, as they showed on the channel, he was very kind of like electronically modified rifles for having the scopes that will show, with like maybe laser beam and all these other inventions to make these high-powered rifles and everything is almost like computer-driven. when hunting big animals. So I shall now narrate the story of how a hunter became a great devotee by the association of such an exalted personality as Narad Muni. From this story one can understand the greatness of association with a pure devotee, or with pure devotees. Ekodina Srinada Deki Narayan Triveni Snani Prayaga Korilagaman. Once upon a time, the great Saint Narada, after visiting Lord Narayan in the Vaikunthas, went to Prayag to bathe at the confluence of three rivers, the Ganges, Jamuna, and Saraswati. The great Saint Narada is so liberated that he can go to the Vaikuntha planets to see Narayan and then immediately come to this planet in the material world and go to Prayag to bathe in the confluence of three rivers. The word Triveni refers to a confluence of three rivers. This confluence is still visited by many hundreds and thousands of people who go there to bathe, especially during the Madhya-lila, which occurs during the month of January. A liberated person who has no material body can go anywhere and everywhere. Therefore, a living entity is called Sarvaga, which indicates that he can go anywhere and everywhere. Presently, scientists are trying to go to other planets, but due to their material bodies, they are not free to move at will. However, when one is situated in his original spiritual body, he can move anywhere and everywhere without difficulty. Within this material world, there is a planet called Siddhaloka, where inhabitants can go from one planet to another without the aid of a machine or space rocket. In the material world, every planet has a specific advantage, vibhuti bina. In the spiritual world, however, all the planets and their inhabitants are composed of spiritual energy. Because there are no material impediments, it is said that everything in the spiritual world is one. Now, once upon a time, the great sage Narada, after visiting Lord Narayan in the Vaikunthas, went to Prayag to bathe in the confluence of three rivers, the Ganges, Jamuna, and Saraswati. Now, it's very interesting that we're reading this just at this time, because today is the day that Mahaprabhu leaves Navadip to take sannyas. And it is during this time, which is the time when many persons do go to Prayag to bathe in the river there, the Ganges, and this is called Magha Shankranti. It is when the sun enters into Capricorn, and it is on this day. It is at this time, actually, that Mahaprabhu left his home in Navadip and went to take sannyas from Keshav Bharati, and he actually went to, where is it? In Bengal. Keshav Bharati. I always know this, and suddenly my memory is a little blocked. But it's in. He goes to. We go. It is very, not so far from Guru Maharaj's place in Hapania. So. What is it? Okay, anyway, so where is it that Mahaprabhu goes to take sannyas? The train goes there from Navadip, very, very close. It's look on there. I will say, I just had to slip my memory. All right, no, you can, maybe someone has phoned in, but all right. All right. I can tell you quickly. Hello? Mahaprabhu leaves Navadip and travels to Vanapati Dehem Riga Ache Bhume Pade Manavira Bhagnapara Kore Dadpadi. Narad Muni saw that a deer was lying on the path through the forest and that it was pierced by an arrow. It had broken legs and was twisting due to much pain. As Mahaprabhu left, went to Katwa, to the ashram of Kesha Bharati. So, but it is at this time. Today we are observing Mahaprabhu's leaving Navadip in the nighttime. In the nighttime, he leaves Navadip, that Kolavecha Sridhar. All the devotees visit Mahaprabhu in the course of the day, and Kolavecha Sridhar brings what is translated as a pumpkin law. Brings this pumpkin, which Mother Sachi cooks into kheer. Mahaprabhu eats that, remembering not very much Kolavecha Sridhar, his dear servant, who was a banana merchant. And then Mahaprabhu leaves in the nighttime to go to see Kesha Bharati in Katwa. Okay, Ekdin Srinara Deki Narayan Triveni Snane Praya Gorilagaman. Once upon a time, the great sage Narada, after visiting Lord Narayana in the Vaikunthas, went to Prayag to bathe in the confluence of the three rivers, the Ganges, Jamuna, and Saraswati. So it's at this time that Narad Muni is visiting Prayag, and there's also this time when Mahaprabhu's Sannyas Lila begins, that he goes to Katwa to take sannyas. Banapate Dekimriga Ache Bhumepadi Bana Vida Bhagnapada Kore Dadvadi. Narad Muni saw that a deer was lying on the path through the forest and that it was pierced by an arrow. It had broken legs and was twisting due to much pain. Arakata dure eg degena shukar tache vida bhagnapada koredadvada. Further ahead, Narad Muni saw a boar pierced by an arrow. Its legs were also broken, and it was twisting in pain. Achi ek. So first Narad Muni saw a deer that was half killed and twisting in pain. Further ahead, Narad Muni saw a boar pierced by an arrow. Its legs were also broken, and it was twisting in pain. Achi ek shashaka deke arakata dure jivera duka deki narada vyakula antare. When he went further, he saw a rabbit that was also suffering. Narad Muni was greatly pained at heart to see living entities suffer so. So they were half killed and left in a painful condition. Katadure deke byara brike ondahaya mriga maribariache pana judia. When Narad Muni advanced further, he saw a hunter behind a tree. The hunter was holding arrows, and he was about to kill more animals. Shama Varna Rakta Netra Mahabhayankar Danorbana Hastejena Jamadandadar. The hunter's body was blackish. He had reddish eyes, and he appeared fierce. It was as if the superintendent of death, Yamaraj, were standing there with a bow and arrows in his hands. Patachari Narada Tara Nikate Chalila Narade Deki Mriga Sub Palayad Gela. When Narad Muni left the forest path and went to the hunter, all the animals immediately saw him and fled. Krudahaya Vyara Tare Galidite Chai Narada Prabhave Muke Gole Nahiyai. When all the animals fled, the hunter wanted to chastise Narada with abusive language, but due to Narad's presence, he could not utter anything abusive. Gosai Rayana Patachari Keniaila Tumadeki Mora Lakya Mrigapalayla. The hunter addressed Narad Muni, O Goswami, O great saintly person, why have you left the general path through the forest to come to me? Simply by seeing you, all the animals I was hunting have now fled. Narada Kohe Patabule Ailana Puchite Maniek Samshaya Hoy Taha Kandaite. Narad Muni replied, leaving the path, I have come to you to settle a doubt that is in my mind. Pateje Shukaramriga Jani Tomar Hoy Vyadakohe Jekoha Satanischoy. I was wondering whether all the boars and other animals that are half killed belong to you. The hunter replied, yes, what you are saying is so. So the hunter acknowledged that all these animals had been killed by him. Narada Kohe Jadi Jibe Mara Tumi Ban Ardamara Korakeni Lao Paran. Narad Muni then inquired, why did you not kill the animals completely? Why did you half kill them by piercing their bodies with arrows? Vyarako he shunagosai mrigari moram nam pitara shikate ami kori aichekam. The hunter replied, my dear saintly person, my name is Mrigari, enemy of animals. Mrigari means enemy of the animals. My father taught me to kill them in that way, to half kill them, leave them in pain. My father taught me this. Ardan Mara Jivajari Dad Farakore Tabita Ananda Mora Badaye Antare. When I see half-killed animals suffer, I feel great pleasure. So it's obvious that Mrigari's father was also a hunter and taught him how to hunt animals and half-kill them like this. He said, I learned this from my father. When I see half-killed animals suffer, I get great pleasure. Narada Kohe Ekbastu Magetomar Stane Vyadakohe Mrigari Laha Jay Tomaramane. Narad Muni then told the hunter, I have one thing to beg of you. The hunter replied, you may take whatever animals or anything else you would like. So when Narad Muni said, I have one thing to beg of you, the hunter was thinking, oh yes, you want some skin or like this. Mrigachala Chaha Jari Aisha Moragare J Chaha Taha Diva Mriga Vyagrambare. I have many skins. If you would like them, I shall give you either a deer skin or a tiger skin. Thinking sometimes yogis dress in deer skin or something. Narada Kohe Ihami Kichuna Hichahi Araek Dana Ami Mage Tomafani. Narad Muni said, I do not want any of the skins. I'm asking only one thing from you in charity. Kali hoite tumi je mrigari mariba pratame mariba arda marana koriba. I beg you that from this day on you will kill animals completely and not leave them half dead. Vyadakohe kibadana magila amare Ardamarile kiba hoi taha koho more. The hunter replied, my dear sir, what are you asking of me? What is wrong with the animals lying there half killed? Will you please explain this to me? Why are you asking such a strange thing from me that I will completely kill the animals rather than half killing them? He's already said that his father taught him in this, and he enjoys watching the animals suffer. Narada kohe arda marile jiva pai yata jive duka ditecha tomar hoibe aiche abasta. Narada Muni replied, if you leave the animals half dead, you are purposely giving them pain. Therefore, you will have to suffer in retaliation. Vyara tumi jiva mora alpa aparada tomar kadartana diyamara hepap apar. Narada Muni continued, my dear hunter, your business is killing animals. That is a slight offense on your part, but when you consciously give them unnecessary pain by leaving them half dead, you incur very great sins. Kadar tia tumijata marila jivare tarataiche toma maribe janma janmantare. Narada Muni continued, all the animals that you have killed and given unnecessary pain will kill you one after the other in your next life and in life after life. Nara sange vyadera mana parasana hoila tarabakya shunimane baya upajila. In this way, through the association of the great sage Narada Muni, the hunter was a little convinced of his sinful activity. He therefore became somewhat afraid due to his offenses. Vyarakohe baya hoite e amarakarma kemone tarimu muni pamara adama. The hunter then admitted that he was convinced of his sinful activity, and he said, I've been taught this business from my very childhood. Now I am wondering how I can become freed from these unlimited volumes of sinful activity. So Narada Muni has explained to Mrigari that he'll have to suffer birth after birth for all the animals that he has half killed and left twisting in pain. But now the hunter is reflecting, because he has been doing this for such a long time. He's half killed many, many animals, and he's thinking now of the consequences, what will happen to him in the future. E pap jayamora kemona upaye nishtara korahamore padon tomarapaye. The hunter continued, my dear sir, please tell me how I can be relieved from the reactions of my sinful life. Now I fully surrender unto you and fall down at your lotus feet. Please deliver me from sinful reactions. So this is most persons' understanding of committing sinful activities. They're not necessarily repulsed by the sinful activities, which they should be, but rather they're thinking, oh, how will I get free from the karma, the reaction from having committed sins? They're not thinking, how can I stop from committing sins in the future? But it's rather, how will I become free from the reactions? So the hunter continued, my dear sir, please tell me how I can be relieved from the reactions of my sinful life. Now I fully surrender unto you and fall down at your lotus feet. Please deliver me from sinful reactions. Narada kohe chadidara amarabachana tabise korite parit homara mochana. Narada Muni assured the hunter, if you listen to my instructions, I shall find the way you can be liberated. Vyara kohe je kaha se tak koriba Narada kohe danuka bhanga tabi se kahiba. The hunter then said, my dear sir, whatever you say I shall do. Narada immediately ordered him, first of all, break your bow, then I shall tell you what is to be done. This is the process of initiation. The disciple must vow that he will no longer commit sinful activity, namely illicit sex, meat eating, and gambling and intoxication. He promises to execute the order of the spiritual master. Then the spiritual master takes care of him and elevates him to spiritual emancipation. Okay, Vyatako he danuka bangile vartiba kemone Narada kohe ami ana diba pratidine. The hunter replied, if I break my bow, how shall I maintain myself? Narada Muni replied, do not worry, I shall supply all your food every day. So the hunter is immediately thinking, if I break my bow under your order, then I'll lose my livelihood. This is how I maintain myself, is by hunting. But Narada Muni replies when the hunter says, how I maintain myself, he says, do not worry, I shall supply all your food every day. Danuka bangi vyadatara charane parila tare utaya narada upadesha koila. When thus assured by the great sage Narada Muni, the hunter broke his bow, immediately fell down at the saint's lotus feet, and fully surrendered. After this, Narada Muni raised him with his hand and gave him instructions for spiritual advancement. Garagiya brahmane deho jata achedan ek basira pari bahira how duijan. Narada Muni then advised the hunter, return home and distribute whatever riches you have to the pure Brahmins who know the absolute truth. Then after you have distributed all your riches to the Brahmins, you and your wife should leave home, each taking only one cloth to wear. So first, Narada Muni asked the sage to break his bow. Then Narada Muni advised the hunter, return home and distribute whatever riches you have to the pure Brahmins who know the absolute truth. After you have distributed all your riches to the Brahmins, you and your wife should leave home, each taking only one cloth to wear. This is the process of renunciation at the stage of vanaprastha. After enjoying householder life for some time, the husband and wife must leave home, distribute their riches to Brahmins and Vaishnavas. One can keep his wife as an assistant in the vanaprastha stage. The idea is that the wife will assist the husband in spiritual advancement. Therefore, Narada Muni advised the hunter to adopt the vanaprastha stage and leave home. It is not that a grihastha should live at home until he dies. Vanaprastha is preliminary to sannyas. In the Krishna consciousness movement, there are many young couples engaged in the Lord's service. Eventually, they are supposed to take vanaprastha, and after the vanaprastha stage, the husband may take sannyas in order to preach. The wife may then remain alone and serve the deity or engage in other activities within the Krishna consciousness movement. Naditiriye kani kutira korea tara age ek pinda tulase ropiya. Narada Muni continued, leave your home and go to the river. There you should construct a small cottage, and in front of the cottage you should grow a tulasi plant on a raised platform. Tulasi Parikrama Kora, Tulasi Sevan, Nirantara Krishna Nama Koriya Kirtan. After planting the Tulasi tree before your house, you should daily circumambulate that Tulsi plant, serve her by giving her water and other things, and continuously chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Okay. Tulasi Parikrama Kora, Tulasi Sevan. Do Tulasi Parikrama and Tulsi Seva. Nirantara Krishna Nam Koriya Kirtan. And always then chant Krishna's name. Here Prabhupada says, chant the Mahamantra. Always chant Krishna's name. Amitomai Bahu Ana Pataimu Dine Se Ana Labe Jata Kau Duijane. Narad Muni continued, every day I shall send sufficient food to you both. You can take as much food as you want. Tabe say, let's see. When a person takes to Krishna consciousness, there is no need to care for material necessities. Krishna says, Yoga Kaman Bahami Aham. I personally carry all necessities to my devotees. Why should one be anxious about the necessities of life? The principle should be that one should not want more than what is absolutely necessary. Narad Muni advises the hunter to accept only what is absolutely necessary for him and his wife. The devotee should always be alert to consume only those things that he absolutely requires and not create unnecessary needs. Tabi sem mrigade tine narada shushta koila shushta hoya mrigade tine dana palaila. The three animals that were half killed were then brought to their consciousness by the sage Narada. Indeed, the animals got up and swiftly fled. They were dying, those animals, they were half killed. But then the three animals that were half killed were then brought to their consciousness by the sage Narada. Indeed, the animals got up and swiftly fled. So Narada Muni revived them, cured those animals, and then they ran off. Dekhiya vyadara mani hoila chamatkar, gare gela vyada guru ke kori namaskar. When the hunter saw the half-killed animals flee, he was certainly struck with wonder. He then offered his respectful obeisances to the sage Narada and returned home. So he saw that Narad Muni was, by his spiritual power, able to revive those animals, and they fled. Jatastani Narada Gela Vyadagari Aila Naradara Upadeshe Sakala Korila. After all this, Narad Muni went to his destination. After the hunter returned home, he exactly followed the instructions of the spiritual master Narada. For spiritual advancement, one must have a bona fide spiritual master and follow his instructions in order to be assured of advancement. Gramidvani hoila byara Vaishnava hoila Gramera lok sab ana anite lagila. The news that the hunter had become a Vaishnava spread all over the village. Indeed, all the villagers brought alms and presented them to the Vaishnava who had formerly been a hunter. So it says here, Grame Dvani Hoila Vyara Vaishnava Hoila. Gramera Lok Sab Ana Anite Lagila. The news that the hunter had become a Vaishnava spread all over the village. Indeed, all the villagers brought alms and presented them to the Vaishnava who had formerly been a hunter. Ek din ana ane dasha bisha jane dine tataloy jata kai dui jane. In one day enough food was brought for 10 to 20 people, but the hunter and his wife would only accept only as much as they could eat. They didn't accept to store food for the future. Ek din narada kohe shunaha parbate Amara ek sishya ache chalaha dekite. One day, while speaking to his friend Parvat Muni, Narad Muni requested him to go with him to see his disciple, the hunter. So Narad Muni is with Parvat Muni, his friend. They go to see the hunter. Tabe Dui, I'm also thinking of my friend Parvat Maharaj. Tabe Dui Rishi Aila se Vyadastane Durahoite Vyada Paila Gurur Darshane. Yes. So around June or July this year will be 2 years since Parvat Maharaj passed away. So he was living here for so many years. So one day, while speaking to his friend Parvat Muni, Narad Muni requested him to go with him to see his disciple, the hunter. Tabe Dui Rishi Aila se Vyadastane Durahoite Vyadapaila Gurur Darshane. As the saintly sages approached the hunter's place, the hunter could see them from a distance. Astavyaste Danashe Patanahipai Patara Pipilika Iti Uti Darebai. With great alacrity, great eagerness, the hunter began to run towards the spiritual master, but he could not fall down and offer obeisances because ants were running hither and thither around his feet. So the hunters saw Narad Muni and Parvat Muni coming, and he ran towards them with great eagerness. But he couldn't offer obeisances because Pipilika means ants. There are so many ants on the path, and he didn't want to hurt the ants. Dandavat stane Pipilikare dekiya bastre stana jadi pade dandavat hoya. Seeing the ants, the hunter whisked them away with a piece of cloth. After thus clearing the ants from the ground, he fell down flat to offer his obeisances. So he's able to clear a place in the path to offer obeisances, even though they're ants. He whisks them a little away with his cloth, then offers obeisances. Naradikohe vyade nahoy ascharya haribhakye himsas shunya hoy sarubarya. Narad Muni said, "My dear hunter, such behavior is not at all astonishing. A man in devotional service is automatically non-violent. He is the best of gentlemen." In this verse, the word saruvarya means the best of gentlemen. At the present moment, there are many so-called gentlemen who are expert in killing animals and birds. Nonetheless, these so-called gentlemen profess a type of religion that strictly prohibits killing. Thou shalt not kill. According to Narad Muni and Vedic culture, animal killers are not even gentlemen, to say nothing of being religious men. A religious person, a devotee of the Lord, must be nonviolent. Such is the nature of a religious person. It is contradictory to be violent and at the same time call oneself a religious person. Such hypocrisy is not approved by Narad Muni and the disciples and the disciplic succession. Etana iadbhuta vyadha tavahim sadayo guna. Etana iadbhuta vyadha tavahim sadayo guna. Hari bhakto pravrittadye nateshu paratapina. O hunter, good qualities like non-violence which you have developed are not very astonishing, for those engaged in the Lord's devotional service are never inclined to give pain to others because of envy. This is a verse from the Skanda Purana. Tabise vyada dohare angane anila kusha Kushashana Ani Dohare Bhakti Basaila. The hunter then received the two great sages in the courtyard of his house. He spread out a straw mat for them to sit upon, and with great devotion he begged them to sit down. Janiyani Bhakti Dohara Paraprakalila Sejala Stri Purushe Piya Shiri Loila. He then fetched water and washed the sage's feet with great devotion. Then both husband and wife drank that water and sprinkled it on their heads. Let's see. This is the process one should follow when receiving the spiritual master or someone on the level of the spiritual master. When the spiritual master comes to the residence of his disciples, the disciples should follow in the footsteps of the former hunter. It doesn't matter what one was before initiation. After initiation, one must learn the etiquette mentioned herein. Kampapula Kashru Hoila Krishnanama Gaya Urdhva Bahu Nritya Kore Bastra Udaya. When the hunter chanted the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra before his spiritual master, Krishna Nam Gana, he's chanting Krishna Nam. When the hunter chanted the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra before his spiritual master, his body trembled and tears welled up in his eyes. Filled with ecstatic love, he raised his hands and began to dance, waving his garments up and down. Dekhiya Vyadera Prema Parvata Mahamuni Naradere Kohe Tumi How Sparshamani. When Parvat Muni saw the ecstatic loving symptoms of the hunter, he told Narada, "Certainly you are a touchstone." Aho danyo si devarshe kripaya yashatat shanat nicho pi ut pulaka lebe lubdako ratim achute. Narad Muni continued, "My dear friend Narad Muni, you are glorified as the sage among the demigods. By your mercy, even a low-born person like this hunter can immediately become attached to Lord Krishna." Narada Kohe, Aho Danyo Si Devarshe, Kripaya Yasya Tatshanat, Nichopi Utpalako Lebe, Lubdako Ratim Achute. Narad Muni continued, "My dear friend Narad Muni, you are glorified as a sage among the demigods. By your mercy, even a low-born person like this hunter can immediately become attached to Lord Krishna. Narada Kohe Vaishnava Tomara Anakichuai Vyada Kohe Jari Patao Sediya Abai." Narad Muni asked the hunter, "My dear Vaishnava, do you have some income for your maintenance?" The hunter replied, "My dear spiritual master, whoever you send gives me something when he comes to see me. Eta ana napato kichu karyanai sabedui janar jogya bhagyamatra chai." The former hunter said, "Please do not send so much grain, or please do not send so much food. Only send what is sufficient for 2 people, no more," because they're bringing such big quantities. Narada Kohe Aiche Roha Tumi Bhagyavan Etaboli Duijan Hoila Andardan. Narad Muni approved. He is not wanting more than a daily supply of food, and he blessed him, saying, You are fortunate." Narad Muni and Parvat Muni then departed from that place. Eta kohilun tomai vyadera akyan jay shuni shunile hoy sadhu sangha prabhur gyan. Thus I have narrated the incident of the hunter. By hearing this narration, one can understand the influence of association with devotees. Okay, so tomorrow we'll continue from here. Today we heard different definitions to amplify the meaning of that Atmarama verse. And near Grunta brought up the meaning of hunter and how even a hunter can be attracted to the Lord's service by the association of devotees. So, the story of Mrigari, the hunter. Hari Haraye Nama Krishna, Hari Haraye Nama Krishna, Jaravaya Nama, Hari Haraye Nama Krishna, Jaravaya Nama, Jaravaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Nama, Jaravaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Nama, Gopal Govinda Ram Shri Madhusudan, Gopal Govinda Ram Shri Madhusudan. Well, before I sing Hari Haraya, I started to sing Hariya, but I just again mentioned, today is Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Sannyas Lila beginning. In the daytime, he's meeting with all the devotees. Many devotees come to visit him. They're not knowing that Mahaprabhu is leaving that day to go to Katwa to take sannyas from Keshavarti. But by the divine arrangement of the Lord, they come to see him on this day. And Mahaprabhu is affectionately meeting with all his devotees, and then Kolavecha Sridhar, who's a banana merchant, Mahaprabhu would always joke with Kolavecha Sridhar and argue with him about the price of his products like bananas and the flowers from Mochaganda and the plates made from banana leaves and bowls. And Mahaprabhu would always argue about the price, and Kolavecha, he was just engaging in some play with his devotee, and he would sometimes just grab things and not pay for them. And like this, he had an intimate relationship with Kolavecha Sridhar. But all the time Mahaprabhu is like playing with him and taking things. And but then we see that Kolavecha Sridhar brings Mahaprabhu a pumpkin, and Mahaprabhu gives it to Mother Sachi, who cooks it with milk to make kheer, and Mahaprabhu takes that kheer, and he remembers Kolavecha Sridhar. And then in the evening, Mahaprabhu leaves Navadip forever to go take sannyas in Katwa, and Mother Sachi is watching as Mahaprabhu leaves, and she can't move. She's like a statue. And Mahaprabhu goes, and Mother Sachi, then when the devotees come, Mother Sachi tells him and says, you can take possession of this house. Mother Sachi is there with Vishnu Priya. After Lakshmi had passed away, Mahaprabhu remarried. His wife was Vishnu Priya. And she was young, and after Mahaprabhu took sannyas, she became very much austere and engaged in austerities and chanted the holy name. And after chanting the holy name, she would eat some rice, little rice, but practically she became thin from so much austerity, remembering Mahaprabhu. Then Mahaprabhu went to the ashram of Keshavarti, and many people came there, and knowing that Keshavarti, that Mahaprabhu had asked for sannyas, the people threatened Keshavarti and said, if you give him sannyas, we'll tear your ashram down to the ground. We can't allow this. And all the people gathered there, they're arguing, and they're talking about how Mahaprabhu should not be allowed to take sannyas. But Mahaprabhu convinces Keshavarti, and then a barber is called for. And the barber begins, as the day wears on, then finally the barber is shaving Mahaprabhu's head, and when he's half finished, Mahaprabhu gets up and leads a big kirtan. And then the barber finishes shaving Mahaprabhu's head, and it said that barber from that day on swore he was so much traumatized by shaving Mahaprabhu's beautiful hair off that he said, I will never shave another head. And he gave up his profession of being a barber, and later he became a sweet maker. And like this, then Mahaprabhu is wandering in Radhadesh, which is more on the, western side of the Ganges. And for 3 days Mahaprabhu was trying to go to Vrindavan, but he actually didn't know if it was day or night, and he's just wandering around in circles. And Nityananda Prabhu tells all the cowherd boys in that area that when Mahaprabhu sees you, they're tending their cows. When Mahaprabhu sees you and asks the way to Vrindavan, instead you tell him the way to the Ganga. And so Mahaprabhu sees the cowherd boys in different places and asks them to chant the holy names, and they do, and Mahaprabhu is very happy. And they're motioning it by Nityananda Prabhu's instructions, they're motioning Mahaprabhu to the Ganga. And before Mahaprabhu gets to the Ganga, then Nityananda Prabhu, who had been hiding before, or not with Mahaprabhu, he comes, and then Mahaprabhu says, oh, Sripad, where are you going? And he says, I'm going with you to Vrindavan. And then Mahaprabhu says, how much further is Vrindavan? And Keshavarti says, just here, you see. Here is the Jamuna, but it's the Ganga. Here is the Jamuna. Then Mahaprabhu bathes in the Ganga, and he's all wet, and his clothes are all wet. And then by Nityananda Prabhu's instruction, Advaitacharya comes there, and Advaitacharya has a boat. And Mahaprabhu recognizes Advaitacharya and says, what are you doing here in Vrindavan? And Advaitacharya says, this must be some kind of a joke. Now you have bathed in the Ganga, the Ganges, so please come to my house. There is nothing elaborate there, just some simple food that my wife has cooked, some lafra, some mixed vegetables. Very simple, but you come to my house. And Mahaprabhu said, Nityananda Chidami. He said this was the Jamuna, but it's not. This is the Ganga. Then Advaitacharya says, no, he has not cheated you, because at Prayag, I believe it is, the Ganges and the Jamuna flow together, come together. And since the Jamuna is on the western side, and the Ganga is on the eastern side, and you bathed on the western side of the Ganga, that's Jamuna water. So he's not cheated you. then Mahaprabhu goes to the house of Advaitacharya, and he meets with all the devotees, because Nityananda Prabhu was sent for Mother Sachi and all the devotees to arrive. And then there's this last meeting in the house of Advaitacharya in Shantipur, Mahaprabhu with all his devotees, and Mother Sachi says that if you go to Vrindavan, we'll never hear from you, and she begs that Mahaprabhu will go to instead to Jagannath Puri, which is still Mahaprabhu. That way won't have people criticizing him for remaining at home after taking sannyas, but at the same time, many Bengalis always go to Jagannath Puri, so the Mother Sachi and the devotees will always have news of Mahaprabhu, and then sometimes the devotees will go to see Mahaprabhu, especially during the time of the Chaturmasya, the time of before for the Jagannath Ratha Yatra, and then they'll stay for some time there in Jagannath Puri. So this is the request, and after meeting with all the devotees, having big feast for 10 days or so, and kirtans, and Mahaprabhu goes to Jagannath Puri. But this is a time now, because the sun always enters into Magh, or enters into Capricorn at this time of the year. And Magh Sankranti, when Mahaprabhu takes sannyas, that is the 15th of January. So, also I was born on the 16th of January, so I can remember the Lord's sannyas lila. And today is the 13th of January, and it was the day on 13th of January Mahaprabhu leaves home. This is also the day in which Shrutashava, who later became Vaishnava Maharaj, he was born on this day. He would always tell me he was born on Friday the 13th. And today it's the 13th, but it's a Wednesday. But Vaishnava Maharaj, or Shrutashava, he is born. And on that day he was born. It was Friday the 13th. So now I'll sing Hari Harai. So we're remembering, starting today, Mahaprabhu's leaving to go to Katwa to take sannyas. And in the Mat, what they're doing is they're making more simple the offering for the devotees is more simple. Some little austerity that they're doing to remember Mahaprabhu Sannyas Lila, because for persons in Navadip and elsewhere also, of course, they're sorry to hear of Mahaprabhu leaving home in Navadip, taking sannyas. So they're observing more simple eating, and they'll take just some vegetables mixed with dal that will be offered at lunch, and the devotees will take that. All right, so Hari Haraya Nama Krishna Jadavaya Nama, Hari Haraya Nama Krishna Jadavaya Nama, Jadavaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Nama, Jadavaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Nama, Gopal Govinda Ram Shri Madhusudan, Gopal Govinda Ram Shri Madhusudan, Giridhari Gopinath Marana Mohan, Giridhari Gopinath Marana Mohan, Sri Chaitanya Nityananda Sri Advaita Chandra, Sri Chaitanya Nityananda Sri Advaita Chandra, Garadhara Shiva Sadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda, Garadhara Shiva Sadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda, Jai Rupa Sanatan Bhatta Raguna, Jai Rupa Sanatan Bhatta Raguna, Sri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasa Raguna, Jiva Gopala Bhattadasa Raghunath, H.I. Gosai Kori Charana Bandhan, H.I. Gosai Kori Charana Bandhan, Jaite Vignana Shamista Puran, Jaite Vignana Shamista Puran, H.I. Gosai Jarmui Taradas, H.I. Gosai Jarmui Taradas, Tasavara Para Renu Mora Panchagras, Tasavara Para Renu Mora Panchagras, Tader Charana Sevi Bhakta Sanibas, Tader Charana Sevi Bhakta Sanibas, Janame More Abhilas, Janame More Abhilas, H.I. Gosai Jabe Bhaje Koilabas, H.I. Gosai Jabe Bhaje Koilabas, Radha Krishna Nitya Lila Kori La Prakash, Radha Krishna Nitya Lila Kori La Prakash, Anande Bolo Hari Bhaja Vrindavan, Anande Bolo Hari Bhaja Vrindavan, Shri Guru Vaishnava Pade Manjai Aman, Shri Guru Vaishnava Pade Manjai Aman, Shri Guru Vaishnava Pad Padma Koriyas, Shri Guru Vaishnava Pad Padma Koriyas, Harinam Sankirtana Kohe Naratamudas, Harinam Sankirtana Kohe Naratamudas, Shri Guru Vaishnava Pad Padma Koriyas, Shri Guru Vaishnava Pad Padma Koriyas, Harinam Sankirtana Kohe Naratamudas, Harinam Sankirtana Kohe Naratamudas, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Nitai Gora Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Nitai Gora Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Nitai Gora Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Nitai Gora Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Hari Bo. Jai Saparikara Shishi Guru Guranga Gandharvika Giridhari Joki Jai. Tadiya Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Sanyas Lila Smarana Ki Jai. Jayom Vishnupad Paramahansa Paravajakacharya Ashtatara Sadarshi Shimad Srila Bhakti Nirmalacharya Maharaj ki jai. Jayom Vishnupad Paramahansa Paravajakacharya Ashtatara Sadarshi Shimad Srila Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj ki jai. Jayom Vishnupad Paramahansa Paravajakacharya Ashtatara Sadarshi Shimad Srila Bhakti Rakakshira Dev Goswami Maharaj ki jai. Jai Bhagavan Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Thakur ki jai. Jayom Vishnupad Srila Gaur Kishoredas Babaji Maharaj ki jai. Jayom Vishnupad Srila Satchidananda Bhakti Vinod Thakur ki jai. Jayom Vishnupad Vaishnava Sarvabhauma Srila Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj ki jai. Rupanuga Guru Bharga ki jai. Namachari Srila Haridas Thakur ki jai. Shri Rupa Sanatana Bhatta Ragana Shri Jiva Gopal Bhatta Dasha Ragana Shad Goswami Prabhu ki jai. Prem Sigo Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasudeva Shri Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami Prabhu ki jai. Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita ki jai. Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur ki jai. Sri Chaitanya Bhagavat ki jai. Narottam Srinivas Shamananda Prabhu ki jai. Vishvavaranya Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Shri Navadip Dham ki jai. Shri Mayapur ki jai. Saparshada Shri Nityananda Prabhu ki jai. Saparshada Srimad Mahaprabhu ki jai. Shri Koladvip ki jai. Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Mat ki jai. Soquel Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Seva Ashram ki jai. Ganga Devi ki jai. Tulasi Maharani ki jai. Bhakti Devi ki jai. Shri Vrindavan Dham ki jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Go Gopi Govardhan Sham Kana Radha Kunda Kalindi Amuna Jewel ki jai. Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki jai. All the assembled devotees ki jai. So I would recommend anyone who wants to further read about Mahaprabhu Sannyas Lila, they can read in the, don't turn it off yet, they can read in the Golden Volcano. There's a part there called A Tragedy of Separation, in Separation, and it's about Mahaprabhu Sannyas Lila. So you can read that there in Golden Volcano. All the assembled devotees ki jai. Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol.
Jayam Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Pavan Janardan Maharaj ki jai.